Hello and welcome to Handmade with Holly. My name is Holly Michelson and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Del Mar, New York, just outside of Albany. Today I'm delighted to bring you part 3 in my Masterclass series about the Rainbow of Happiness bundle. So in part 1, we learned lots of tips and tricks for best using the stamps in this bundle, and I made these adorable cards in part 1. In part 2, we covered a whole variety of techniques using the Brilliant Rainbows dies, and these are some of the cards that we were able to make in video number 2, but there was a whole slew more of them. So if you haven't seen it, you won't want to miss video number 2. Now, in video number 2, we finished off our time together learning how to use the Brilliant Rainbows die and the blending brushes to create this awesome card front. And we also made this one as well. So if you haven't seen the prior videos, I encourage you to go back and check out video number 2 and video number 1. Video number 2 is where we started to make these card fronts. And here in video number 3, we're going to turn them into a great fun fold. So the fun fold that I have for you today is this easel fold. So it looks like a regular card, but it actually pops open like this and stands like an easel. And it folds flat to be easily mailed. Here's another example. This one's a baby card, and it's specifically for a brand new baby in my family named Grace. And so as soon as I finish this video, I need to mail the card. I did cheat a little bit here, knowing that it was going to be a baby card for Grace, and I substituted a retired stamp. However, since I started filming this series, I've gotten another new stamp set called Celebrating You. And in this one, there is a sentiment that says, "Welcome, little one." So if you're interested in making the baby version of this card, you could certainly substitute that sentiment from the Celebrating You stamp set. So before I go ahead and get started on this easel fold, if you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I invite you to please click on the red word subscribe and become a member of the Handmade with Holly channel. It's free. There's no risk involved. Would love to have you join me. And also be sure to click on the notifications bell, because the notifications bell will enable YouTube to notify you each time I upload a new video. And you're not going to want to miss it, because there's actually a part 4 to this masterclass where I will be showing you how to make these fun rainbow shaker cards. So you won't want to miss that. This will be a fairly quick video today. We're just going to learn how to make the fold, and we will finish this card, both of these cards, and transform them into our fun easel fold cards. So I'm going to start off with this one first, just because there's a little bit more work involved in this one, and then we'll quickly repeat the process with this one that's one step further along. So in order to make our easel fold, we're going to need a half sheet of cardstock. So this is 4 1/4 by 11 inches long, so it's really tall and skinny. We're going to put 2 score lines in our card base to create our fun fold. So the first one will be in the center of the card, where we would normally score it to fold the card in half, and we're going to do that at 5 1/2. And I'm just going to give that a quick score there at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to do it again at 2 3/4. Now 2 3/4 is halfway. So if we've just marked the card in half right here, now we're going to do it in half again at 2 3/4, and I'm going to give that a nice score there. So you can see I now have my card with 2 score lines on it. Hopefully you can see that. And I have one here that's already folded just to save us some time. But all I did was fold it in half here, give it a burnish with my bone folder. This is a mountain fold. So I fold it in half as you would a standard card if you were making a top open card, right? But then at the other score line, we're going to bend it backwards. And so this time we're making a valley fold, okay? So mountain fold, the peak is at the top. A valley fold, the peak is at the bottom. And so I'm just going to go ahead and give that a burnish. And this is basically the foundation for the easel card. This is the beginning of a card front. Like I said, we made it in the last video. We need to create a whole front panel. So this piece here is the same as what you see this Pool Party piece of designer series paper here. So we're going to mount that onto a piece of basic white cardstock that can be our easel mechanism. So this piece of cardstock is the full card front. So it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just like a regular card front. And we're gonna go ahead and take our design that we began in the last video. All this is a piece of designer series paper that's 4 by 5 1/4. So it's just 1/4 inch off on each side. And I have the Brilliant Rainbow Dies die cuts mounted to it. Again, check out that video number 2 to see how I got to this part. And I'm just going to put some adhesive on it to adhere it down. I apologize, I'm back to snail adhesive. Right now, the Stampin' Seal is currently on back order and I'm out, so I had to go back to snail. Okay, just going to mount that down, and now I have a card front similar to that. I'm going to decorate it any way I like. So I think I'm going to use this You Make Me Happy sentiment. I stamped this in Pacific Point before you got here. I'm going to go ahead though, before I put these clouds on, I'm going to add a little bit of balmy blue around the edges of my cloud. This is my latest fun technique. I think it gives the clouds a little bit of dimension. Using the balmy blue so that I get a light effect. I don't want anything that's too harsh. Little bit of dimension to that cloud. I'm just going around the edges with my blending brush. You saw video number 2. You saw that I discovered this idea there. It was my first time when I did it in video number 2. Okay, I like that. I'm going to go ahead this time and pop my clouds up with some dimensionals. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Or I'll probably put the sentiment on flat since the clouds are going to be popped up. Do I like that or do I like that? I think I like this better. I'm deciding on this, all right? Going to pull off the protective backing and attach my cloud. Same for this one. Now, let's bring back in our card base. And if this is our card base, we have our front panel bent in half. What we're gonna do is we're gonna attach our card front right here on the front. So in order to make sure, like if I flip this over and put my adhesive on the back, there's a good bet I'm going to get some of it down here and it's going to stick to the card. So it's a better idea to actually put the adhesive directly on this top panel where you know you're going to be covering up. And that way we don't worry about getting any excess adhesive down on the bottom. Okay, I just lined that up with the corners and pressed it down. There we go. And now I'm going to bring this open and we're going to decorate the inside. So here I have a piece of Granny Apple Green Designer Series paper. It came from the Sunshine and Rainbows Designer Series paper. This was free during celebration. I don't know about you, but I still have several packs left and lots more rainbow cards I'm going to be able to make with that. And I'm just going to adhere this down. This piece I have here is a standard matte layer. It is 4 by 5 1/4, so it's just a 1/4 inch smaller on each side. And then we're going to go ahead. I stamped this sentiment, "You are every bit of wonderful." Now, I should have mentioned the "You Make Me Happy" came from the Rainbow of Happiness stamp set. Right here, I used this stamp. But then this other one, "You're Every Bit of Wonderful," this actually came from the Celebrating You, the stamp set that I just got in between the last video and this video. And so I'm going to use this "You're Every Bit of Wonderful." I think that fits great with "You Make Me Happy, You're Every Bit of Wonderful." It's a nice complement to the outside sentiment for the inside. And besides, I already showed you the stamp set to show you the Welcome Little One stamp that I could have used on the baby card had I owned this in time. So just to keep from using too many different products in one video, I'm going to stick with a sentiment from that sentiment set. So I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of my sentiment and center it within my scrap of Designer Series paper. Not even sure what size this piece of paper is. It was just a scrap that I had left over from one of the many cards I've made, and this was in my scrap bag. So I reached in and said, what can I do with the scrap? And now I'm turning it into my stopper. So if you can see what we're trying to do, Grace here, this becomes the stopper that holds the easel. I'm going to do the same thing with this "You're Every Bit of Wonderful." So considering I'm using it as a stopper, I definitely need to put it up on dimensionals. So I'm going to put one in each of the 4 corners. I could put one in the center as well. I don't think I need it. If you're mailing the card, you may want to consider that. The pressure from the postage machines can cause things to sag. I suspect I know who I'm giving this to and that I won't be mailing it. Okay, so in order, we have our dimensionals on. I've removed the protective backing. In order to put this down, we're just going to hold the easel to kind of see how we want it to stand up, and then basically judge however we like it. We could bring it more forward and have it be at more of an angle. We could bring it more back and have it be more upright. It's up to you how you like the positioning of that. I'm going to go ahead and say I like it right here, and then I'm just going to put down my stopper, give a little press to those dimensionals, and voila, I now have this piece that's holding the easel card in place. So it's really as simple as that. Let's go ahead and we'll make this other one, and that will give you a chance to just reinforce what you learned. Okay? So again, we're starting off with a card base that measures 4 1/4 by 11. And we scored it. We just did this a minute ago. This is the exact same card base we just had. We scored it at the halfway point, which was 5 1/2, and then we scored it at half of the half. So if you consider this now the new piece, the halfway point was 2 3/4. And I'm going to go ahead and make this valley fold here on the small piece. Make the valley fold. And then I'm going to, at the middle, make a mountain fold. Again, valley fold. So this is the valley fold. This is the mountain fold, okay? So I now have this piece like this. This is the card front that I already made in video number 2. In this version, I use blending brushes on die cut rainbow pieces. On this version, I actually used a stencil of the die cut, and I use my blending brushes to brush ink straight onto my piece of basic white. And then I mounted it onto a piece of So Saffron. This So Saffron is a full card front, so it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and that's gonna align perfectly with the front of our card, all right? So just like before, we're gonna put our adhesive on the part that's going to be concealed so that we make sure we don't get anything. If we put it back here, we could have it down there. We don't want that. And we're gonna go ahead and line that up with the corners so that everything is straight. Actually finding it's a little easier to get that straight if I turn it sideways. Okay, so that's now mounted onto there. And I'm going to need to decorate the inside. So this time I have this piece of designer series paper. It's actually the back of the one that we used on this card. The back is this nice stripe pattern. We'll use the stripe pattern on the inside. And we're gonna need to cut this down so that it measures. First of all, decide if you want your stripes going up and down or if you want your stripes going horizontal. Let's think about that for a second. Do I want it up and down? Do I want it horizontal? I think I prefer it up and down. It feels like a continuation of the rainbow. So I'm gonna hold my paper in this direction and I'm gonna cut it at 4 1/4. I'm gonna save this scrap for another project. And then I'm gonna cut this at, oops, sorry, I did that wrong. I'm gonna cut this at 4. We're creating a matting layer. We need it to be a little bit smaller than the card front. Should have cut that at 4. Now I've got this fun little strip. And now I'm gonna cut this at 5 1/4. So 4 by 5 1/4, standard matting layer. Got another little strip. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some snail on here. Gonna line this up so that I have a nice even border on all 4 sides. And now this time I'm gonna use the cloud. So I'm gonna need some dimensionals here. Let's decide where we want that cloud to stop things. Maybe actually let's stop here real quick and we will put a little bit more of that balmy blue around the edges of this cloud. Since we did it up here, it'll coordinate. Again, this is balmy blue and I'm just taking my blending brush. If you don't have the blending brushes and you have a sponge dauber, you could do the exact same thing. Dauber gives you probably a little bit more control than the big blending brush. But since we used them on this card already, we have it handy. Decide where we want the stopper. I'm gonna say about right here. Voila. Oh my God, I love this card. I think it came out simply adorable. Now, this happy birthday sentiment is also from the Celebrating You stamp set. So had I owned it in time, I would have used it here on the baby card. And we used the You're Every Bit of Wonderful on this card. And now I just used the Happy Birthday on this card. I love the sentiments in the Rainbow of Happiness stamp set. You make me happy, you make this world a better place. Sending you a rainbow of happiness, a little something to brighten your day. Thank you. But for instance, if you want a birthday card, there isn't a happy birthday or there wasn't a welcome baby in this set. And so for that reason, I combined with other stamp sets to make the baby card that I needed for the new family member in our family. And also I have lots of April birthdays, and so I'm certainly going to need a birthday card. I've got a couple of other easel card samples to show you while I have you. Here's another fun one. This one is also using the Sunshine and Rainbows Designer Series paper. I cut the rainbow out of the Designer Series paper. This piece of Designer Series paper in the pack. and it coordinates perfectly with this die from the Brilliant Rainbows die set. I use that to cut out the rainbow here. This shape is from the Scalloped Contours dies, really lovely. The paper is all from the Sunshine and Rainbow set. And this label is from the Tasteful Labels die set. This is retiring. It's in the Last Chance sale. I started my masterclass before the Last Chance sale had been announced, so I did not know that these labels would be retiring. So if you don't have those, you want to swoop those up. The sentiment is from this Sharing Sunshine stamp set, as is the stopper. So I made my stopper the sun. These three stamps, actually, the rays, the sun itself, and the smiley face, I got all of those out of Sharing Sunshine, as well as the happy birthday. This stamp set also is retiring, and so it went in the Last Chance sale. It sold out very quickly in the Last Chance sale, so this is no longer available for purchase. It was at the time that I started my masterclass and started making these samples, but it is now gone. Similarly, I want to also mention how I created the word grace was I used the playful alphabet dies. These have also gone into the Last Chance sale, but they are still available. So, and not only are they still available, but they're on sale. They're a great buy, so you don't want to miss these. I've been using them for so many wonderful things, including personalizing my baby card. Let's look at some samples of how I stopped my easel. This is a scrap of Designer Series paper, literally out of my scrap bag, and then I used the Playful Alphabets dies to cut out the baby's name. In this case, I punched out a cloud using the rainbow punch in basic white paper. I punched out some clouds from the Designer Series paper. This is a pattern on the paper. This is another example where I used a scrap of Designer Series paper. This is a scrap of that striped paper. And then I stamped a sentiment on another scrap and mounted that as a stopper. And in this example, I actually used a die cut of the sun as my stopper. But when you're planning one of these cards, you want to make sure that you can find something that you'll be able to use to hold your easel card in place. Now, while I have you, I have just a couple other samples I can show you. Today is Saturday, April 9th when I'm filming this video, and Easter is in 1 week. So this is a sample easel card that I made for Easter, and I used some of the free daffodil paper. This was free from Celebration, and it had this gorgeous sheet where literally all you have to do is cut the paper and you have a beautiful card. There's so little work to do here. And I made these adorable Easter cards this year that I'll be sending out to my family. So that is a fun sample. And I've also got some great samples using some of my paper pumpkin kits. I'm going to save those though for an upcoming video. So you again will want to be sure that you're subscribed and that you click on notifications so that you don't miss out on any of the fun. I hope you're enjoying this masterclass and that you're learning a lot about the Rainbow of Happiness bundle. And I really hope that you're enjoying this fun fold, making an easel card. If you want to learn how to do the blending brush technique like I did on these two cards, you'll want to be sure to check out video number 2 where I go into all of the details about that. Talk about using stamping blends, which is a technique that I did on this card. So encourage you, if you haven't already, to go watch those videos. And I want to give Amy Conders a shout out. She had a great card on Pinterest that I fell in love with, and the design looked something like this. And I loved that card, and so I cased her card, switched up the sentiment, removed the label, and then converted it into a fun fold to put my own twist on it. But I do want to send some gratitude her way for the lovely inspiration for this card. I think that's all I have for you today. As always, if you're not already a subscriber, please click on the red word subscribe and then the notifications bell so that YouTube will notify you each time I upload a new video. There'll be one more part in this masterclass. Again, we're going to be making a rainbow shaker card in that last class. And also, if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. Go ahead and look down in the comments for a link to my online store. I have a downloadable for you with all of the dimensions and color options for today's cards. So be sure to go down in the comments and look for the link to the downloadable so that you can get all the information on how to make these awesome cards. Thanks so much for joining me. Until the next time. Bye.